Are you feeling unaccomplished?
Yeah.
Want to be as great as Julius Caesar?
Yeah.
Then this DVD, How to Be Julius Caesar, will teach you everything you need to know.
Lesson 1. Be born in 100 BC. You should know that
Julius Caesar was born in Rome on July 100 BCE into a patrician family. He was the namesake of his father, and his mother was Aurelia Cotta. His paternal aunt, also known as Julia, married Gaius Marius, a talented general and reformer of the Roman army. Marius became one of the richest men in Rome at the time. As he gained political influence, Caesar's family gained wealth. As internal politics reached a breaking point in 86 BCE, Roman politics divided into two factions. The populares, which included Marius, were in favor of radical reforms, and optimates, which included Lucius Cornelius Sulla, worked to maintain the status quo. Disputes between these two factions led to civil war and eventually opened the way to Sulla's dictatorship. Caesar was tied to populares through family connections. Not only was he Marius' nephew, he was also married to Cornelia, the youngest daughter of Lucius Cornelius Cinna, Marius' greatest supporter and Sulla's enemy. To make matters worse, in the year 85 BCE, just after Caesar turned 15, his father became ill and died. Both Marius and his father had left Caesar much of their property and wealth in their wills, leaving Caesar with very little power against Sulla's dictatorship.
Lesson 2. Be kidnapped by pirates and keep in mind
While on a trip to the Aegean Sea, Caesar was kidnapped by Sicilian pirates. According to Plutarch's retelling of this incident, when the pirates told Caesar they would ransom him for 20 talents of gold, Caesar laughed and told them he was worth at least 50. Historians suggest this to be an act to decrease the danger of being killed. However, many have seen it as a humorous incident that anticipates his self-confidence. Caesar also increased his protection by joining with the crews and acting like one of them, even scolding a few when they showed any signs of disrespect. Once ransom had been paid, Caesar returned to Rome, gathered a fleet, and captured the pirates.
Lesson 3. Be elected as consul, aka First Triumvirate.
In 60 BC, Caesar ran in the election for consul for 59 BC, along with two other candidates. Caesar won the election. Caesar approached Pompey and struck a deal to become allies. Pompey wanted land reform and was frustrated that he couldn't get anything done about it. He also went to his friend Crassus for help. The three of them came together as the First Triumvirate and had enough money and political influence for political and social reforms to occur. In order to ensure the bond being strong between them, Caesar had his daughter Julia married to Pompey and the daughter of his client Piso married to Crassus.
Crassus's money, Pompey's military clout, and Caesar's popular touch soon made the triumvirate the dominant political force in the Roman world, known to its enemies as the three-headed monster.
Lesson 4. Start the Gallic Wars. For this lesson, you'll need to know
In 58 BC, a situation arises that causes Julius Caesar to rush up to Switzerland with some legions, and this sets off a war where the Gauls push back and the Romans fight, and this is the Gallic Wars.
Today the gods will decide your fate.
Lesson 5. Build a bridge. Before you do this, make sure you know. By June of 56 BC, Caesar became the first Roman to cross the Rhine into Germanic territory. This led to a large wooden bridge that was built in only 10 days. The bridge stretched over 300 feet across the Rhine River. Just this bridge itself had impressed the Germans and the Gauls, who had very little experience in bridge building. Even to this day, the Rhine Bridge is considered a masterpiece of military engineering. However, Caesar burned down the bridge on his way back to Rome.
I built this.
Lesson 6. Cross the Rubicon River. Remember that
In 50 BCE, the Senate led by Pompey ordered Caesar to return to Rome and disband his army because his term as proconsul had finished. Moreover, the Senate forbade Caesar to stand for a second consulship in absentia. Caesar thought he would be prosecuted and politically marginalized if he returned to Rome without the immunity enjoyed by a consul or without the power of his army. Pompey accused Caesar of insubordination and treason. On January 10, 49 BCE, Caesar crossed the Rubicon, the frontier boundary of Italy, with one legion and ignited civil war.
Lesson 7. Have an affair with Cleopatra.
Anytime, babe. I really enjoyed my time in Egypt cruising with you on the Nile. Totally, babe. I just made you a villa across the Tiber River. How about we spend some quality time in there tonight? Of course, anything for you, babe. But you're so young. Oh my god, he's not mine.
Now for lesson 8, name yourself dictator for life.
In 44 BCE, Julius Caesar was named Dictator Perpetuus, or Dictator for life. Despite common belief, he was never an emperor, but he acquired absolute power, believing that the existing government was weak and that it required a sole, all-powerful ruler. He established many reforms, including land reforms in favor of the poor, as well as veterans, and he also made various political reforms, ignoring any opinion or opposition from the Senate.
Lesson 9, introduce a Julian calendar. Here's some information that you'd need to know. Julius Caesar created the calendar which we use today, now called the Julian calendar. This calendar was originally over 440 days a year, but then it was shortened to 365 days a year. The month July was once known as Quintilis before it was changed in honor of Caesar.
After you've done all of these lessons, it should look something like this.
For the glory of Rome!
On March 15th, 44 BCE, also known as the Ides of March, Julius Caesar was assassinated by the Senate at his last meeting before a scheduled military campaign against Parthians. The meeting was in a theater being used as temporary headquarters. The Senate had grown increasingly resentful towards Julius Caesar as he had gained so much power. The Senate was rendered fairly useless at this point. Afraid that he would become too powerful and eventually disband the Senate completely, the 60 conspirators of the Senate, led by Marcus Junius Brutus, planned to kill Julius Caesar at the meeting. Julius Caesar had been warned prior to going to the meeting, but he ignored the advice. At the meeting, he was stabbed 23 times. Although the assassination was successful, the Senate failed to eliminate Mark Antony, Caesar's cousin, who turned the majority of Rome against the conspirators and the Senate. This resulted in a civil war lasting over a decade and the rise of the Second Triumvirate when Mark Antony allied with Octavian and Marcus Lepidus.
Even though Julius Caesar died over 2,000 years ago, he still influences the modern society today. First, Julius Caesar influences our culture and language. He was interested in Morse code and Pig Latin, which led to the creation of Caesar's substitution cipher. In this cipher, every letter would be replaced by the one 3 letters down, replacing A by D and B by E. He advocated for education and demanded a library be built in every town. All the King of Suits are famous historic figures, and Julius Caesar is on our deck of cards as King of Diamonds.
Secondly, Caesar inspired many political titles such as Tsar and Kaiser. He still influences generals today since the strategy he used to conquer Gaul is passed on to them. The Roman Empire lived in honor of him for about 5 centuries after his death. Some people saw Caesar as a good role model. However, this is still debated upon.
Thirdly, a fun fact about Caesar is that he is still remembered in our culture through Shakespeare and movies like Mean Girls. Shakespeare wrote a play on Julius Caesar, and the infamous line from the play is, "Et tu, Brutus?" However, the line is just a creation of Shakespeare's.
And when did it become okay for one person to be the boss of everybody? Because that's not what Rome is about. We should totally just stab Caesar!